So in order to write code in Python, we need to have the right tools on our computer. Now, if you've already been doing some Python before and you're already set up with Python on your computer, you have a setup that is fine for you, that is perfectly fine. You can stop this video and move on to the next one. You will hear lots of opinions about this editor is better than that editor, and you should be doing Python this way, or you should be using this software. I don't believe in any of those. I think the best system is the one that works for you. Often I think that the system I have is the one I'm used to. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the best one, it's what I'm happy with. But if you're brand new to coding in Python, then you will need to install Python, the language. Your computer needs to know the language, so we need to install it. And then some sort of editor where we can write our computer program in and do everything we need to do. So to install Python, we can go to python.org. I'll put the links below the video. And if you go to downloads, simply download the latest version. If you happen to have a version of Python already on your computer, if the number there is much lower than 12, I would advise you to go with the newest one. So it's always best to download the latest version. I will be using Python 3.12 in this course, which is the current version as I'm recording. You click on that, it will download depending on whether it's a Mac or a PC or a Linux. The system will be different, of course, but you know how to double click on whatever is downloaded. Go through the installation process. Once you finish the installation process, you'll have Python on your computer. Now, that's not enough. Once you install Python, it does come with its basic editor, but I am going to recommend, unless you have an editor you're happy with, I'm going to recommend that you use one called PyCharm. So once again, I'll send you the link of, or rather the link is below the video. Now, PyCharm has two versions. The professional one is the one up on top, and it seems like that's the one you want to download. I would recommend not to go for the professional one because it's not free. The community one is more than enough for what you need, and it's free. So my strong advice is, unless you have already an editor you're happy with, or unless a colleague told you use this or use that, if you're just willing to go along with the flow, then go to this page, download PyCharm Community Edition. That's the one I will be using in this course. But as I've said, I'm not too fussy, as in there are other editors. It's whatever you're comfortable with. What I would advise is don't spend lots of time trying all of them. What you want to do is to start learning Python, not learning what all the editors can do. So pick one, whether it's PyCharm, whether it's something else, and stick with it for a while. Then once you're a bit more proficient, you can experiment with other platforms and see which one you like. But don't spend too much time initially playing around with all different editors. So I'll be using PyCharm, and you can download the Community Edition, which is the free one. So once you've installed Python and then PyCharm, if that's the editor you're using, let's launch PyCharm. So the rest of the session will focus on PyCharm. If you're using a different editor, this won't be relevant to you. So you will be asked to go through some installation steps. Just pick the default for everything. You can always come back and change them later. And you'll come to a page where you have the option to choose a new project. Now, a project in the context of PyCharm and of what we're doing here is a folder. So think of it as a folder where you're going to put lots of files. We will have lots of files for each of our lessons, but I would recommend you create a project for the course. Let's call it the place course. And stick with one project, so stick with one folder, and then every lesson will put a new file in this folder. Choose all the defaults. We'll come back to what all of these things mean in the future. For now, all you want is to create a new environment, stick with virtualenv if that's the default you have. If you've just installed Python, you'll have only one version there. It should show up there. In my case, I have lots of versions, so I'm going to pick 3.12. If for some reason nothing shows up there, get back to me and I'll help you and guide you. And we're going to create this project. So what we've done there is we've told PyCharm what version of Python we want to use. Now, you may only have one version of Python on your computer, but in real world, you may have lots of versions, and for different projects, you're going to use different versions. And there we are. Once anything happening at the bottom is finished, you're ready to go. And this is the environment. There's nothing much to see now, but what we're going to do is we're going to open a new file. So you can see that often you need to make sure that your folder is selected there. Mine is called the place course. And I'm going to go to the file menu. I don't want a new project now. I've already got a project which I'm going to keep for the whole of this course. Instead, I'm going to choose new ... And you can see I've got an option there, or lots of options rather. You might think, oh, I want to open a new file. You could do that, but there's an easier one. We want a Python file, and this means it will have all the right extensions. So always choose Python file, and here we give them sensible names, whatever it's going to be for the lesson. In this case, let's just put getting started there. And there we are. This is what the environment looks like. On the right, we'll start looking at how this works in our first lesson, which is going to happen soon. But on the right is where we're going to start writing our code. That is not Python code. On the left, you can see my folder with ignore the VM there. This is where the Python is, right? So anything you don't understand for now, ignore. We'll come to it in due course. And there you can see that I've got the file. If I had more files, of course, I'll see them all there. Often you'll see that I prefer to close this panel on the left, so I have all the space for my coding. Once we've written some code, we will go to the Run menu, choose, you can see often you have the option there, Run Getting Started, but if you have lots of files, sometimes you might want to choose the one which says Run ... and you'll have all the files available. In this case, I only have one. And I'll press it. There's of course nothing happening because there's no code in our file, but that's how we're going to be running our code. So you're all set up. If you've been able to do that and you have no errors, you're all set up ready to start coding in Python, which we're going to be doing very, very soon.